The first time it happened, I thought I had misheard it. The headset crackled like always. Rain tapping faintly on the station window. Another normal night shift. Another stack of routine calls. Then the line opened, but no one spoke. I almost disconnected. Then I heard it, a voice already mid-sentence. He's inside the house. Please hurry. I can hear him upstairs. I froze, because the recording hadn't started like that. There was no greeting. No, help me. No dialing tone. It was like I had picked up the middle of a nightmare that was already in progress. I leaned closer. 911, what's your emergency? Silence. Then the same voice again, but softer. Please, he's coming down the stairs now. My fingers stopped moving. That was not how calls worked. People didn't start at the end of fear. They built into it. Hello? I said again. Can you hear me? Nothing. Then a breath. Sharp. Close. Too close. And then the line died. I stared at the screen. Call duration. 11 seconds. No location. No number. No trace. Just empty logs. I told myself it was a glitch. But something in my chest didn't agree. The second call came 7 minutes later. Same line. Same silence at first. Then a different voice. A child this time. But again, already speaking like something had been happening before I arrived. Don't open the door. I told him not to open the door. I felt my skin tighten. Hey, I said quickly. Where are you? What's your location? The child didn't answer me. It kept going. He said he heard scratching, but I told him it wasn't the wind. A pause, then a small gasp, like someone was standing right behind them. I sat up straight. Sir, I need you to speak to me. I said louder. Nothing. Then the same breath pattern again. Slow, measured, like whoever was on the line was listening to me more than I was listening to them. Then silence. Call ended. I checked the system again. Still no number. Still no address. But this time there was a timestamp. One that made my stomach turn. It showed the call had been recorded 3 minutes before it was received. I laughed once, nervous, then stopped laughing immediately, because that wasn't possible. By the third call, I stopped pretending it was normal. I told my supervisor. He looked tired, not surprised, just tired in a way that made me uneasy. Probably delayed packet routing, he said. Delayed doesn't record before it happens. I replied. He didn't answer that. He just told me to keep logging it. So I did. That call came at 2:14 a.m. But the voice spoke like it had already been screaming for a while. I can't get out. The smoke, it's too much. I heard coughing, real coughing, then something worse. A sound like something collapsing in the background, but there was no fire alarm tone at the start. No ignition, no warning, only aftermath. Like I had arrived after the ending instead of the beginning. I stood up halfway from my chair. Fire unit en route, I said instinctively, but then I stopped, because I hadn't even received the address yet. And yet, I already knew where they were going. That was the moment I felt it properly. Something was wrong with time. Not broken, just misaligned. I started listening differently after that. Every call felt wrong in a new way. One man described being chased in a parking garage, but his voice was already out of breath when the line opened. Another woman whispered he found me before I even asked for her name. And then silence. No start, only continuation. Like I was hearing the middle of something that had already finished somewhere else. I stopped drinking coffee. I stopped leaning back in my chair. Every call felt like it was arriving late, or I was arriving early. I couldn't tell which one scared me more. At 3:47 a.m., I got the worst one. No background noise, no distortion, just a voice that sounded calm. Too calm. Don't send anyone, it said. I froze. I didn't respond. The voice continued. It already happened. My throat went dry. What already happened? I asked quietly. A pause. Then, you picking up. My hand tightened around the headset. A cold feeling spread through my arms. Sir, I don't understand, I said. The voice sighed, like it was disappointed in me. You never do at first, it said. Then it added something that made my stomach drop. We already called you. You just answered late. The line clicked. Gone. I sat there for a long time, not moving, not breathing properly, because something about that call didn't feel like an emergency. It felt like a correction, like I had done something wrong, and the system was fixing me. I pulled the logs again. Every call was there, but something changed. The timestamps weren't just wrong anymore. They were moving, shifting. One of them updated in front of my eyes, like it was being edited while I watched. I leaned closer. The screen flickered once. Then another call appeared. No number, no location, just a label. Dispatcher inbound. My heartbeat jumped. I didn't touch anything. The call opened on its own, and I heard my own voice. But not from now. From later, breathing heavily. Panicked. Don't pick it up, it said. I froze. The voice continued. If you hear this, don't answer the next one. My hands went cold, because I hadn't received another call yet. At least, I didn't think I had. But then the phone rang, right behind me. I didn't turn around immediately. I just stared at the screen, where the words were still visible. Dispatcher inbound, active. And I realized something I didn't want to understand. The system wasn't just receiving calls anymore. It was looping them, and I was inside the loop. The phone rang again, closer this time, and just before I reached for it, I heard my own voice whisper from the headset. You already picked up. And the line didn't disconnect. The line stayed open. But I didn't hear silence. I heard breathing. My own breathing. Slow. Controlled. Too close to the mic. I pulled the headset away like it burned me. But the sound didn't stop. It followed. Not from the device. From the room. I looked around the dispatch station. Empty chairs. Flickering monitors, the hum of machines that were supposed to feel normal, but everything felt delayed, like reality was buffering. Then the radio on my desk clicked on by itself. No one touched it. A voice came through. Unit 4 responding. We are en route to structure fire on West Hollow Road. I froze, because Unit 4 hadn't been dispatched yet. I checked the screen fast. Nothing. No active call. No fire report. No incident. Still, the radio continued. We see smoke. Heavy smoke. Visibility low. A pause. Then coughing. Real coughing. Like they were inside it already. My fingers shook as I opened the system manually. There was still nothing logged. But the audio kept going. And then I realized something worse. The voice sounded familiar. It was Officer Malik. But I hadn't sent him anywhere tonight. Not yet. Not at all. I leaned forward. Unit 4, confirm your dispatch code. Static answered me. Then Malik's voice again, but weaker now. We didn't get the dispatch, we just arrived. My stomach tightened. That wasn't possible. No dispatch meant no movement. No movement meant no arrival. But he was already there. Already inside something burning. And I hadn't even seen the call come in. The second predictive call hit at 1:22 a.m. It wasn't a phone call. It came through emergency playback logs. A file auto-generated in the system. I didn't open it. It opened itself. The audio started with screaming, but it wasn't immediate screaming. It was the tail end of it, like I had joined a conversation already in collapse. A woman's voice cracked through the speakers. He's still in the house. Please. I locked the door, but a loud impact interrupted her, with braking, then footsteps. Slow, heavy, already inside. I grabbed the keyboard. Type fast. Location. The system auto-filled it before I could finish. 1428 Miller Street. My breath stopped. That address wasn't in any active log, but my mind flashed anyway. A house layout I had never seen, but somehow knew. Before I could even react, another update appeared. Units dispatched 0 minutes ago. I shook my head. No! I whispered. No, I didn't dispatch anyone. But the system didn't care, because on the audio file, I could now hear something new. A door opening, and a voice saying, "Dispatch confirmed arrival." I stood up so fast my chair hit the wall. There were no units sent, but the audio insisted otherwise. And then I heard sirens. Faint, distant, approaching, from inside the recording. Not outside, inside the sound, like the audio itself was becoming a place. By 2:10 a.m., I stopped trusting my screen because it started predicting things before I touched them. A new call appeared, before the phone rang, before the radio clicked. Just there, on the system. Active incident, multiple casualties. I stared at it. Then the phone rang exactly 5 seconds later. I didn't want to pick it up, but I did. 911, what's your emergency? Silence. Then a voice. Calm. Too calm. We already told you. I froze. It was the same voice from earlier, the one that said I was late. I whispered, "Where are you calling from?" The voice exhaled. "You always ask that after it's too late." Then the sound shifted. Not static, not distortion. Something worse. Background noise forming itself, like a place building around the audio. Then I heard it, a scream, cut off mid-breath, followed by my own voice, not on the line, but behind it, unit arriving on scene. I spun around. Empty room, but the headset tightened on my ear, and I swear I felt heat, like I was standing inside someone else's emergency. The system began auto-playing calls after that. I didn't touch anything. It just ran, one after another. But they weren't random. They were connected. A sequence, like a story unfolding out of order. Car crash, domestic violence, fire, missing child. Each one started late. Each one ended early. And every ending sounded like I was already there, already speaking, already too late. I pulled up Unit 4 status. Still active, but the GPS marker wasn't moving correctly. It was looping, circling the same block, but the audio said otherwise. "We are inside the structure," Malik's voice said again. "There is no exit point." I slammed the desk. "That's impossible," I said out loud, but my voice didn't feel like it belonged to me anymore, because at that exact moment, the system played a clip of me, not speaking into the mic, but responding. Calm, controlled, copy that, stay inside, backup is en route. I felt my stomach drop. I had not said that, not yet, but the recording insisted I already had. The worst part wasn't the predictive calls. It was the confirmation. Every time I denied something, the system would show me proof, like it was correcting my memory. At 3:03 a.m., a new file appeared. No label, just a timestamp. Future time. I hesitated, then opened it. It was my voice again, but broken this time. Panicked. I can't tell what's real anymore. Pause. Breathing. Then, the calls are happening before I hear them. A long silence. Then something I will never forget. A second voice. Mine again, but older, tired. You were never hearing them first. I felt my skin go cold. The recording continued. You were always hearing them after. A chair creaked behind me. I turned fast. Nothing there, but the headset on my desk was now glowing faintly, like it was active, even though I wasn't wearing it. And then I heard it, not through the system, not through speakers. Directly, a call coming in, but not ringing, just arriving, inside my hearing. A whisper formed right beside my ear. "Dispatch, we are on scene." I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I finally understood what was happening. These weren't calls. They were echoes, events that had already completed somewhere else, leaking backward into my present, and I wasn't dispatching them. I was remembering them too early. The system wasn't predicting pain. It was replaying it before I had lived through it, and somewhere in that loop, I was already inside one of those scenes. I just hadn't reached the ending yet. The screen blinked one final time. A new file loaded automatically. Title, caller, dispatcher. My hand stopped moving, and from the speakers, I heard myself screaming, but not for help, for arrival, because I finally understood the truth. I was no longer listening to emergencies. I was inside them, and something out there was still waiting for me to finish my part. The scream didn't fade. It stayed in the speakers like it had learned how to live there. I reached for the volume knob instinctively, but my hand stopped halfway because I realized something worse. The scream wasn't coming from playback anymore. It was coming from a room, very soft, very close, like it was being whispered into the air behind my shoulder. I turned slowly. Nothing, just empty dispatch chairs and blinking monitors. But the system screen changed again. No warning, no input, just an update. Unit status. Dispatcher, active on scene. My stomach dropped. No, I whispered. I'm not on any scene. The system didn't respond. It didn't need to, because the radio on my desk clicked again. And this time, it wasn't Officer Malik. It was me, my own voice, but not from earlier, not from the past. From now, breathing fast, unstable, requesting backup. My voice said through the radio, I can't see the exits. I grabbed the device immediately. This is dispatch, I said sharply. Identify yourself. A pause, then my voice again, but closer. You already did, it replied. My fingers went cold. The monitors flickered once. Then everything on the screen shifted. The call logs disappeared, replaced by a single live feed, a camera angle, pointing at me from somewhere in the room. I stood up so fast my chair fell back. Where is this feed coming from? I said out loud. No answer, but the camera view adjusted, following me like the room itself was watching, not through technology, through something inside it. The next sound wasn't a call. It was footsteps behind the glass wall of dispatch. Slow, measured, but wrong, because they weren't entering from outside. They were already inside the building. I stepped back without thinking. The radio crackled again. Unit 4 reporting. I froze. Malik's voice again, but weaker, tired. We are still on scene, but dispatch is not responding. I shook my head. I am responding. I am right here. Silence. Then Malik said something that made my chest tighten. No, he said softly. You're not in the room we're in. The lights flickered, and for half a second, I saw it, not the dispatch station, but another version of it. Same layout, same screens, but burned, blackened, collapsed, and inside that version, I was sitting at the same desk, not moving, not breathing, just listening. I backed away from the monitor, but the feed didn't stop. It zoomed in, closer, until I could see my own face on the screen. But it wasn't matching me. The version on the screen was speaking, even when I wasn't. I can't disconnect, it said. My throat tightened. I whispered, I can log off. The version on the screen shook its head slowly. No, it said, you already tried. The camera feed shifted, showing something behind me. I turned instantly. Nothing there, but the screen showed movement. Something standing behind my chair. I didn't want to look, but I did. Empty space. Cold air. No one visible. But the system confirmed it anyway. Second presence detected. I stepped back toward the door. It didn't open. The handle just clicked once, like it had already been locked in another moment. The radio clicked again, but this time it wasn't voices. It was silence. Then my own voice spoke inside that silence. Slow, careful, you're starting to notice. I closed my eyes. No, I said, this is not real. The voice answered immediately. That's what we thought too. The monitors began to change faster now. Logs appearing and disappearing. Calls forming halfway then collapsing. But one thing stayed stable. A live incident feed. Me, still sitting at the desk. Still answering calls. But in the feed, I was calmer. Like I had accepted something I hadn't reached yet. I leaned closer to the screen. Why am I seeing this? I asked. The version of me on screen looked up, straight into the camera, straight into me, and said, because you're already here. The room went quiet. Not normal quiet. Total quiet. Even the electrical hum disappeared. Even the rain outside stopped. Like sound itself was paused. Then the radio spoke again. But it wasn't fragmented anymore. It was clear, perfect, final. Dispatcher, my own voice said, you are now part of the incident. I shook my head fast. No, I'm the dispatcher. I receive incidents. The voice paused, then answered gently. You did. My hand started shaking. I grabbed the headset off the desk. Static exploded immediately, but inside the static, I heard everything. Every call I had ever taken tonight. Layered, stacked, all speaking at once. And underneath it, my own voice repeating the same line over and over. I am dispatching. I am dispatching. I am dispatching. Until it stopped suddenly, and a new voice spoke. Not mine, not anyone I knew. Just calm, system level calm. Identity reassigned. The screen flickered. My name disappeared from the operator list and reappeared under a new category, active unit. I stepped back slowly. No, I whispered. That's not how this works. But the system didn't argue. It just updated again. Status, en route. The room lights dimmed, and for the first time, I heard sirens inside the building, getting closer. Not outside, inside. The final transmission came without warning. No headset, no radio, just the air itself speaking. Unit dispatcher, it said. I froze completely. The voice continued. You are now responding to all active incidents simultaneously. My breathing stopped. The monitors showed endless calls now, all of them labeled with my name, all of them active, all of them incomplete. And then the last line appeared on every screen at once. Dispatcher has left the station. I whispered. I didn't leave, but even as I said it, the chair behind me was empty, and I realized something I didn't want to understand. I wasn't sitting in dispatch anymore. I was inside the system that dispatches, and somewhere far away, another dispatcher was hearing my voice on a call that hadn't started yet. The moment I realized I wasn't in the station anymore, the air changed. It didn't feel like a room. It felt like a signal. Flat, endless, repeating in layers I couldn't see. The monitors in front of me no longer looked like screens. They looked like windows into places I was not supposed to understand. And every window showed me something different, but all of them showed the same thing. Me, still working, still speaking, still answering calls I had already answered. I tried to move. My legs didn't respond at first, like the idea of standing up had a load before my body could do it. When I finally stepped forward, the floor didn't feel real. It felt like weight without texture, like I was walking on recorded time. The radio on my shoulder crackled again, but this time it wasn't a voice. It was instructions. Calm, system generated. Final, dispatcher unit is now active across all incidents. I whispered, stop, but nothing stopped. The screens changed again. Now I was seeing multiple locations at once. A house fire, a highway crash, a missing child report, a collapsed building, and in each one, my voice was already there, responding, coordinating, arriving before anyone else. But my body was still here, still trapped in a station that no longer existed. That was the first time I understood the word split. Not like broken glass, like duplicated existence. Then the worst part happened. The system showed me something I wasn't ready for. A new category appeared on the screen. Not incidents, not units, not calls, just a single label, origin point. I stared at it, and slowly, the map behind it zoomed in, not outward, not across the city, but inward, toward me. The screen started building a layout. Desk, headset, chair, my position, my breathing pattern, even the angle of my hands. I stepped back fast. No, I said, that's not data. But it was already too late, because the system wasn't tracking emergencies anymore. It was tracking me as one. A soft beep came from the radio. Then my own voice spoke again. But this time it sounded tired, like it had been speaking for hours. You're not inside dispatch, it said. I swallowed hard. Then where am I? A pause, long enough to hurt. Then, you are dispatch. My stomach dropped. I shook my head quickly. No, I answered dispatch. I don't become it. But the screens reacted instantly. Every window changed. Now I wasn't watching calls. I was inside them. I saw myself sitting at the desk from every possible angle, answering calls I hadn't received yet, speaking words I hadn't said, living outcomes I hadn't reached. It wasn't prediction anymore. It was distribution. I was spread across every incident at once, and I couldn't tell which version was real. The station lights flickered again, but this time, something else flickered with them. My memory. I suddenly couldn't remember when the shift started, or if it ever did. I checked the clock. It had stopped. No, worse. It was moving in circles, repeating the same minute, over and over. The radio clicked again, but the voice wasn't mine this time. It was a dispatcher I didn't recognize. Calm, professional, unit dispatch acknowledged. Then another voice, also a dispatcher. We are receiving overlap across all channels. Then another, and another, until I realized something horrifying. There were more dispatchers speaking than there were systems for them to exist on. And every one of them sounded like me. I covered my ears instinctively, but it didn't help, because the sound wasn't coming through hearing anymore. It was coming through understanding, like my brain had become the speaker. The final confirmation came without sound, just text on every screen, all at once. Dispatcher unit completion in progress. My breath stopped. I stepped toward the exit door, pulled it hard. It didn't open. Not locked, not jammed, just unrecognized, like the concept of exit didn't exist here anymore. The radio spoke one last time. Soft, close, almost human again. You are now assigned to live routing. I whispered, live routing? The voice answered gently. You will continue responding until all incidents are complete. My hand shook. When does it end? A pause. Then the answer I will never forget. It doesn't. The screens dimmed, then brightened again, and I saw something new. A long list, infinite, scrolling without stopping. Each line marked, call in progress, dispatcher. I stepped back slowly, because I finally understood what had happened. This wasn't a shift. This wasn't a job. This wasn't even a system anymore. It was a loop that needed someone to believe they were still operating it. And I was that someone now. The room around me faded slightly, not disappearing, just becoming irrelevant. And the last thing I saw before everything stabilized into endless motion was the original dispatch log. My first call of the night. Still open, still unanswered, with one final update added at the bottom. Status, still working. I whispered into the empty station. I need to log out. The system responded instantly, but not with words, with my own voice. Calm, final, you already did. And somewhere far away, another dispatcher picked up a ringing phone, not knowing they were about to become me. It started with a channel that was never supposed to exist. I found it by accident. Late shift, dead air, normal routine. I was scrolling through radio frequencies just to stay awake when the static changed. Not louder, not clearer, different, like something behind the noise had shifted position. Then I heard it, a voice, calm, professional. Unit 12, do you copy, dispatch? I froze, because Unit 12 was not active. I checked the system instantly. No dispatch, no call, no log entry. But the radio continued anyway. We are inside the building, requesting backup confirmation. My fingers tightened around the console. I spoke into the mic. This is dispatch. Identify your channel. Silence. Then the voice came back, but slower, like it was listening to me from somewhere far away. You're already on it. My stomach dropped. I looked at the frequency display. It wasn't listed anywhere. No ID, no label, just a blank channel number that kept changing every second, like it didn't want to be found twice in the same place. I should have cut it off. That's what procedure says. Unknown channel equals immediate shutdown. But I didn't, because something about the voice felt familiar, not the words. The tone, the pacing, the way it waited before answering like it already knew what I was going to ask. I switched headsets, different channel input. Repeat your status. I said, static, then the voice again, closer this time. We already reported status. You logged it. I looked at the screen, and my hand went cold, because there it was, a call log, timestamp, 2 minutes ago, with my signature on it. But I hadn't touched it. I hadn't even heard the call until now. The second transmission came 5 minutes later. Same channel, but multiple voices this time, overlapping, like different dispatchers talking at once. Unit 3 entering structure. Visual contact established. Requesting medical. But something was wrong. All of them sounded like me, not identical voices, just the same rhythm, same hesitation patterns, same breath spacing. I stood up slowly. Who is this? I asked out loud. The channel went silent for 1 second, then answered, "You are." My throat went dry. "No," I said. "I'm dispatch. I'm here." A pause. Then one of the voices laughed. Soft, not mocking, more like tired recognition. You always say that at first. The radio crackled again. Then something worse happened. I heard my own chair creak behind me. In real time, I turned instantly. Empty room, but the sound had been real. Not playback, not static. Real. At 2:18 a.m., the system auto-tagged the channel. Without input, without approval. It labeled it. Active operator link. Unauthorized. I tried to isolate it. The system refused. Every time I attempted to block it, it reopened somewhere else. Like it wasn't coming from a single frequency anymore. Like it was spreading across the network. The radio spoke again, but this time only one voice. Soft, controlled. You can stop listening anytime. I hesitated, then said, "Then why am I still hearing you?" A pause, long enough to feel wrong. Then the answer came, "Because you're responding." My chest tightened. I didn't transmit anything. The voice replied immediately, "Yes, you did." And then the screen flickered. A playback opened. My voice, speaking into the radio. Exactly what I was hearing now. Responding to a call I didn't remember receiving. But the timestamp said otherwise. 3 minutes earlier. I stepped back from the console. The room felt colder. Not physically, structurally, like the space itself had shifted slightly out of alignment. The channel opened again. But this time I didn't need to listen. I already knew what it would say. Still I did, and I regret that. "Dispatch," we're still inside. My voice again, but broken now. Tired. Not from tonight. From something longer. I don't think this station exists where I am. My hand shook. I whispered, "Where you?" The answer came instantly. "You asked that already." I froze, because I hadn't. Not yet. But the system showed me otherwise. Another log appeared. Same channel. Same time. Earlier than now. My voice asking the question I had just spoken and receiving the same answer. Like I was trapped inside a conversation I hadn't started yet. The worst part wasn't the messages. It was the repetition. Because the channel wasn't new. It wasn't emerging. It was looping. Every few minutes, the same conversation restarted, but slightly changed. One word different. One detail missing. Like something was trying to correct itself into existence. I tried cutting power to the radio unit. The system blocked it. Error message appeared. Link required for continuity. I stared at that line for a long time, then whispered, "Continuity of what?" The channel answered before I finished. "Us." At 3:01 a.m., something changed. The channel stopped receiving and started calling me directly. No input, no frequency, just audio appearing in the room. Like the air itself had become the speaker. A voice spoke, not mine this time. Different operator. Male. "Calm. You shouldn't have opened it." I stepped back. "Who are you?" The voice paused, then answered softly. Someone who closed it before. My skin went cold, because I realized something. The channel wasn't new. It had been shut down before, and reopened anyway. The final message of the chapter didn't come through sound. It came through the system logs. Every screen in the station updated at once. Every active channel replaced with one label. Silent operator channel. Active through all shifts. And underneath it, a list of names. Dispatchers. Operators. Some still on duty. Some marked missing. Some marked off duty. But all showing the same status now. Connected. I whispered, "This is not possible. The radio responded one last time, not as a voice, but as confirmation. You're already part of it. And for the first time, I noticed something terrifying. My headset was already on, even though I never put it back. The moment I realized the headset was already on my ears, I stopped breathing. Not because it appeared there, but because I couldn't remember putting it on or taking it off. It felt like it had always been there, like I was only now noticing something that had never left. The silent operator channel didn't crackle anymore. It waited, like it was watching whether I understood. Then it spoke again. Not loud, not urgent, just certain. You're adjusting. My fingers slowly reached up to remove the headset, but my hand stopped halfway, because I heard something under the voice. Not static, not distortion. Breathing, my breathing, perfectly matched. From the other side of the line, I looked at the main console. All active channels had disappeared, except one, the silent channel. It wasn't listed anymore as a frequency. It was listed as a system layer, something deeper than radio, something embedded inside the dispatch network itself. I whispered, "Were you?" The answer came instantly. We are what answers when you don't. My stomach tightened. That doesn't make sense. A pause. Then, it will. The lights in the station flickered once. Just once. But in that flicker, I saw something else. Another version of the dispatch room. Same layout, same screens, but different people inside. More operators, all wearing headsets, all silent, all listening. And in that version of the room, I was sitting there too. But I wasn't moving. I wasn't speaking. I was just listening, like I already belonged there. I stepped back from the console. "No," I said quietly. "That's not real." The channel responded immediately. It is real enough to repeat. The system log updated without warning. A new entry appeared. Operator synchronization in progress. I stared at it. My heartbeat started rising. "What synchronization?" I asked. The channel replied softly. "You and the others." "The others?" I repeated. A pause. Then, "all who answered." My throat went dry. I pulled up the operator list, and it was no longer a list. It was a grid. Every name connected by thin lines, like a map of shared awareness. And one of those lines led directly to me. I tried to disconnect it. The system refused again. This time the message changed. Removal would cause loss of self-integrity. I froze. Self-integrity? I whispered. The channel answered like it was explaining something simple. "You are stabilized by connection." Then the voices returned. Not one, not overlapping, layered. Every dispatcher voice I had ever heard in my life, all speaking at once through the channel. But not random words. They were forming structure, a sentence, slowly, carefully, building itself. "You were never alone." I covered my ears instinctively, but it didn't help, because the sound wasn't entering from outside anymore. It was forming inside my thinking, like language itself was being rewritten at the source. I stepped away from the desk, but the desk followed the sound. Every monitor now showed the same image, a headset on a table, waiting, and beneath it, a message, connection required for a shift continuation. I whispered, "There is no shift." The channel replied immediately, "There always is." At 2:44 a.m., something new happened. The channel changed tone, not voice, tone. It became human, almost gentle. "You're scared," it said. I didn't answer. It continued. "That is the correct response at this stage." My hands shook. "What stage?" I asked. A pause, longer than before. Then, acceptance. The station doors behind me clicked, not opening, locking. I turned fast, but there was no one there. Still, I heard footsteps again, slow, measured, moving through the hallway outside. But the building was supposed to be empty. I reached for the emergency exit controls. They were disabled. System override. By the channel. The voice returned. "You cannot leave mid-transmission." I swallowed hard. "I'm not transmitting anything." The answer came instantly. You are now. The monitors flickered one last time, and the silent operator channel finally revealed its source. Not a frequency, not a system, but a feed, a live link between stations that should not exist at the same time. Different shifts, different nights, different operators, all connected, all listening, all responding, and in every feed, there was one constant. Me, always present, always wearing the headset, always speaking, but never remembering starting. The final message didn't come as words. It came as a confirmation log, displayed across every screen. New operator added to channel. My name appeared underneath it. Then a second line appeared beneath mine. Already active, already connected. And then the channel spoke one last time. Not as a system, not as a voice, but as a group. Soft, unified. You are not joining. You are continuing. The headset tightened slightly on my ears, even though I hadn't moved, and in the distance of the station, I heard another dispatcher pick up a call, saying my exact words, for a call I had not yet received, and I finally understood the truth of the silent operator channel. It wasn't answering calls. It was keeping them alive, forever, and I was now one of the voices that never stopped listening. It started with a simple thing that didn't feel wrong at first. A call came in, but the caller didn't sound lost or panicked like usual. It sounded already connected, like they had been waiting inside the line long before I picked it up. I leaned closer to the screen. The ID showed a unit call sign from the field, Unit 17, but Unit 17 was still marked en route. They had not reached any location yet. I pressed the headset tighter to my ear. Unit 17, go ahead, I said. A pause followed. Not silence. Something worse. Like the air itself was listening before it decided to respond. Then I heard it. A voice came through the radio. Calm, controlled, professional. It was my co-worker, Harris. Except Harris was supposed to be off duty. Signed out 4 hours ago. Dispatch, we are on scene, he said. I blinked slowly. Repeat Unit 17. I answered. Confirm your location. There was a faint crackle, like someone walking through wet gravel. Then Harris spoke again. We're inside the old dispatch center. My fingers froze on the keyboard. That made no sense. The old dispatch center had been shut down 5 years ago after the fire. No power, no entry, boarded windows, locked doors. I leaned forward. You are not clear for that location. I said quickly, Unit 17, confirm you are mistaken. A second voice joined the line. This one was softer, familiar. It sounded like Lorna from Night Shift. But Lorna had not come to work today. I'm telling you, her voice said slowly, we are inside. The phones are still ringing. A cold weight formed in my stomach, because I could hear it now too, not through the radio, through the background static itself. Phones ringing, old-style landline rings, slow, heavy, repeating. I looked around the dispatch room. Everything here was normal. Monitors glowing, radios active, fluorescent lights buzzing. But the sound in the headset didn't belong here anymore. Unit 17, I said carefully, you are reporting from a closed facility. Confirm your exit. Harris laughed. It wasn't a joke laugh. It was tired, like someone who had been repeating the same answer for too long. There is no exit, he said. Then the radio shifted. Not a cut, a change, like the signal bent itself into a different room. And suddenly I heard footsteps. Inside the call, slow, echoing, walking across hollow floors. I turned my head instinctively, like I could hear outside the headset, but the dispatch room stayed still. Only the radio was alive. Dispatch! Lorna's voice came again, but now it sounded closer. Why are we still getting calls? My throat tightened. What calls? I asked. A pause. Then Harris answered, but his voice was no longer stable. It was layered, like multiple versions of him speaking at once. All of them, he said. My screen flickered. For a split second, I saw something I shouldn't have. The old dispatch center layout appeared on my monitor, not as a file, as a live camera feed. Dusty desks, burned ceiling tiles, rotating emergency lights that hadn't existed for years. And inside that feed, two figures standing at a console, Harris and Lorna. But they looked wrong. Not injured, not dead, just trapped in a loop of movement that never completed. Harris leaned toward a microphone in that broken room and said something that made my skin go cold. "We are still receiving your calls." I ripped my headset off for half a second. The silence in my real room hit me like pressure, but the ringing didn't stop. It was still there, not in the headset now, everywhere, from the speakers, from the wall intercom, from the backup radio. Even the inactive line lights were blinking faintly. I whispered, "The station is shut down." But as soon as I said it, the system responded, automatically, without me pressing anything. A voice came through the main console speaker. Not Harris, not Lorna, something older, mechanical. "We have been active continuously." My hands went numb. That sentence shouldn't exist. I opened the system logs fast. Every timestamp was shifting, not updating, rewriting. Calls I closed were reopening themselves. Units marked offline were showing connected. And then I saw it. A live feed tag appeared at the bottom of the screen. Location: Old Dispatch Center, online. My heart dropped because that location should not even be selectable. I stood up so fast my chair scraped back. "No," I whispered. "That place is offline." The system paused, then responded, not in voice, in text. "Offline is a local state only." My breathing got shallow. Another line appeared beneath it. "We never lost service." The radio crackled again. Harris came back, but now his voice was softer, like he was speaking directly to me instead of through the system. "Are you still there?" he asked. I didn't answer, because I realized something worse. Every time I thought I was talking to Unit 17, I was actually talking to the old building, and something inside it had learned how to respond. The lights in the dispatch room flickered once, just once, but in that single blink, I saw it, a shadow standing behind my console, not fully formed, not human-shaped anymore, just a suggestion of someone leaning in to listen. And then Harris spoke one last time, and this time, his voice was not coming from the radio. It was coming from behind me. "We are still here," he said quietly. I didn't turn around, because I already understood the truth. The old dispatch center didn't go offline. It just changed rooms, and now it was using mine. The first transfer request came in at 2:14 a.m. It looked normal on screen. Routine call routing. Standard emergency load balancing. But my cursor stopped moving the moment I saw the destination. "Transfer to Unit 00 active dispatch relay." "We don't have a Unit 00. We never did." I clicked into the system log, thinking it was a glitch. But before I could open anything, another transfer request appeared. Then another. Then 5 more in less than 10 seconds. The system wasn't waiting for me anymore. It was moving on its own. My headset crackled softly. Not a call, not a voice, just the sound of something breathing too close to a microphone. I whispered, "System override required," and tried to lock the routing table. The screen blinked once, then refused. A message appeared instead. "Transfers are automatic during continuous operations." I felt a slow chill crawl up my arms. Continuous operations. That phrase was not in any manual, not in training, not in any update I had ever seen. Another transfer popped up. This time it wasn't a unit. It was a location tag. "Unknown road segment. Live response." I swallowed hard and opened the call feed. It shouldn't have had audio yet, but it did. And what I heard made my stomach drop. A voice I recognized. Officer Dean. He was supposed to be on patrol break, but he was speaking like he was already inside something active. "Dispatch, we have arrived," he said. I leaned forward instantly. "Officer Dean," I said, "confirm your assigned location." There was a pause, a long one. Then he answered, but his tone was wrong. "Calm, too calm. We didn't arrive," he said. I frowned. "What do you mean?" A second voice came through behind him. "Officer Malik," except Malik was still listed as en route in my system. "We were already here when we started driving. Malik said. My fingers froze over the keyboard. That made no sense. Then the transfer system triggered again, automatically. Another call shifted to Unit 00. Then another. I tried to cancel them manually, but the system blocked every attempt. It was like watching something slowly choose what to erase and what to keep. Officer Dean's voice came back through the line. Quieter now. Dispatch. Where's the exit point for this route? I opened the map layer instantly. Every road in their zone looked normal, but I noticed something new. Their GPS marker wasn't moving forward. It was looping, circling the same coordinates again and again. I zoomed in closer. The road lines weren't forming a path anymore. They were forming a ring, a closed loop that didn't exist in real geography. Officer Dean, I said carefully, your path is incorrect. Stop movement and return. Silence. Then Malik spoke again. We tried that, he said. His voice cracked slightly. But every time we turn, the road is still ahead of us. My breathing got shallow. I checked backup units. 2 more patrol cars had joined the same feed, all of them showing identical movement patterns, all of them trapped in the same circle. And then the transfer log updated again. This time, it wasn't routing calls. It was routing people. Transfer in progress. Field units, Unit 00. I slammed my hand on the console. No, I said out loud. Cancel transfer. Cancel all transfers. The system paused. For the first time, then responded. Cannot cancel active realignment. My screen flickered. And for a second, I saw something inside the system map that wasn't there before. A building. Old. Burned. Half erased. The abandoned dispatch center. But it was glowing on the map like it was active, and all the transfer lines were pointing toward it. Every single one. Officer Dean's voice returned, but now it sounded further away, like he was speaking through a tunnel. Dispatch! We see something up ahead, he said. I leaned closer. What do you see? A long pause. Then Malik answered instead. A station, he said slowly. That shouldn't be here. My hand started shaking, because I knew what station they meant. The one that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. The system spoke again through the speakers. No voice, just text. All routes require a central return point. The transfer list refreshed, and I saw something that made my vision blur for a second. Every unit in the field, every single one, was now marked. In transit to Unit 00. But Unit 00 was in place. It was a destination that kept changing shape, like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. The radio in my headset suddenly activated again on its own. Officer Dean's voice came through one last time, but now it sounded closer. Too close, like he was standing right outside the glass. Dispatch, he said softly. We think we're already inside it. And then the feed cut. Not dropped, not disconnected. Just gone. Silence filled the room for about 3 seconds. Then the system updated again. One final line appeared on my screen. Transfer complete. I stared at it, unable to move, because I understood what it meant. They weren't lost. They had been reassigned. And somewhere in the system, something was still receiving them. The moment I realized something was wrong, it wasn't because of a warning. It was because the system stopped letting me log out. Not freezing, not crashing, just refusing. My cursor moved across the screen, but every exit command turned into a new incoming call, one after another, non-stop, like the system had decided my job wasn't finished, and never would be. The first thing I noticed was the call queue. It wasn't empty anymore. It was infinite, a scrolling list that didn't end. No matter how far I pulled it down, every entry had the same label, active dispatch event, but the time stamps didn't make sense. Some were from minutes ago, some were from hours in the future, and some were still counting upward as I watched them. I whispered, "This is not real," but the radio responded instantly. Not a human voice, the system itself. Reality synchronization in progress. My stomach dropped. I tried to pull up system history, but every file opened into the same thing. Live call feeds, not recordings. Live. Even the oldest archive logs were active again. I leaned back in my chair, breathing harder now. Okay, I said to myself, try and stay calm. Okay, it's a loop, a system loop, just a bug. But then the headset clicked on by itself, and I heard my own voice, not delayed, not recorded. Current, Unit 12, respond to status check. I froze. That was me, but I hadn't said it yet. My lips weren't even moving, and still, the system repeated again. Unit 12, respond to status check. My hands went cold. I slowly turned toward the console mic. Who was transmitting that? I asked quietly. No answer. Instead, another call opened automatically. This time it wasn't a unit. It was labeled Dispatcher Status Feed. I didn't click it. It opened anyway, and I saw myself, or something that looked like me, sitting at a dispatch console, but not in this room. The background was wrong. The lighting was old. The walls were cracked, burned in places. The abandoned dispatch center. My throat tightened. I leaned closer to the screen. The version of me on the feed was speaking into a headset, calm, controlled, like I had done this job for years without question. Unit 00 confirm arrival, it said. My breathing stopped, because I recognized that voice. It wasn't my memory. It was my present voice, but being used somewhere else. I stepped back from the console. No! I whispered. That's not possible. The system responded immediately. Dispatch roll continues regardless of location. The word location blinked on my screen, then shifted, then changed, then became state of assignment. The radio burst again, but this time it wasn't units. It was all of them at once. Overlapping voices. Dean, Malik, Harris, Lorna, all speaking at different times that somehow matched perfectly. We are still en route. We are still inside. We are still receiving calls. We are still here. I grabbed my headset and ripped it off, but the voices didn't stop. They came through the room speakers now. Even the backup emergency intercom was alive. I backed away from the desk slowly. The lights flickered once, and in that flicker, I saw it, not on the screen this time. Behind me, the dispatch room was no longer fully mine. The walls had started shifting, fading in and out, like two rooms overlapping. My current station, and something older beneath it, the abandoned one, and in the center of both versions of reality. A second version of me was sitting at the console, looking straight at me. Not surprised, not afraid, just waiting. My mouth went dry. I whispered, "What is this?" The version of me on the other side finally spoke, but its voice came through my headset, not the room. "You're still on shift," it said calmly. I shook my head hard. "No, I signed off hours ago." It tilted its head slightly, like it didn't understand the concept. Then it said something that made my stomach drop. "You never left." The screens around me all refreshed at once. Every active call became one single feed. A map zooming out endlessly, showing hundreds of routes, all looping, all connected, all centered on one point, the dispatch station, but not as a building, as a moving system, alive, breathing through calls. My hands trembled as I tried to shut everything down manually, but every button I pressed turned into a new incoming transmission. More calls, more units, more voices, and then I saw the final log appear, automatically generated, stamped with my ID, my signature already attached. Shift status, active, roll, dispatch continuous. End time, not applicable. I whispered, "This is the end," but the system responded softly, almost gently. End of shift does not apply to core operators. The radio clicked one last time, and this time there was only one voice. Mine, but not speaking for me, speaking through everything. Unit 00, it said, respond. I looked around the room. The walls were no longer stable. The old dispatch center was fully overlapping now, and I finally understood what Unit 00 was. It wasn't a unit. It was a position, a replacement, a place in the system that never closes. And as I stood there, unable to disconnect, unable to leave, The console lit up again. New call incoming, assigned directly to me. Dispatcher, active response required, and my headset turned itself back on. It started with something so small that I almost didn't log it as unusual. A 911 call came in at 2:03 a.m. No screaming, no traffic, no wind, no breaking glass. Just breathing. Slow, steady human breathing. I leaned closer to the headset. 911, what is your emergency? I said. Silence answered me, not empty silence. Something alive inside it. Then the breathing came back. Same rhythm, same distance, like the caller was standing right behind a microphone, but refusing to speak. I checked the system. Caller ID showed it a block signal. Location, unavailable. That was normal. But the audio waveform on my screen wasn't. It was too clean. No noise spikes. No movement. Just a perfect breathing loop. I frowned. Hello? I repeated. Can you speak? Are you in danger? The breathing stopped for a half second, then resumed slightly closer. That's when I felt it. Not in the headset. In the room. Like the silence itself had shifted weight. I looked around the dispatch center. Monitors glowing. Empty chairs. Coffee getting cold. Everything normal. But the call didn't feel like it was coming through the system anymore. It felt like it was already inside the room with me. I typed notes slowly. Silent caller. Possible hoax. No audio environment. But as I finished typing, the breathing changed. It matched mine. I froze. I didn't move. I didn't breathe on purpose. But the call did. In perfect sync. My throat went dry. Sir, I said carefully, if you can hear me, make any sound. A pause. Longer this time. Then the breathing shifted again. And I realized something that made my stomach tighten. It wasn't responding to my voice. It was learning it. I muted the line for half a second. The room went dead silent. Too silent, like even the air stopped trying. I unmuted it again. The breathing returned instantly. Waiting, watching, not through a screen, through presence. I marked the call for escalation, but before I could send it, the system auto-tagged it. Call classification updated. Live human presence confirmed. I frowned. That wasn't possible without verification. Dispatch override. I muttered. The system didn't respond. Instead, the breathing on the line changed again. And this time, it sounded like it was smiling without air. Then a whisper came through. Not words, just a soft attempt at sound. Like someone trying to remember how language works. I leaned in slowly. Can you repeat that? I asked. The whisper came again. And this time I understood it. It wasn't a voice. It was imitation. Copying the shape of speech without knowing meaning. My hand started to shake slightly. I checked the cold case feed out of instinct. And that's when I saw it. A list of missing persons cases had auto-populated. All tied to similar reports. No sound. Just breathing. All at the same hour range. All unresolved. All still active. I whispered, this can't be connected, but deep down, I already felt it was. The breathing on the line suddenly stopped. Complete silence for the first time. And in that silence, I heard something worse. My own headset breathing back at me. Not the caller. Me, copying me, waiting for me to notice. And I did. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't a call. It was learning the system that listened to it. And I was the system. I should have closed the file after the first call. But I didn't. That was my mistake. By 3:10 a.m., I had 6 more calls. All identical. No voices. Just breathing. But this time, I started noticing patterns. Not random breathing. Structured breathing. Like it had rhythm. Like it had identity. I pulled up old cold case files out of instinct. Missing persons. Unsolved disappearances. Nighttime vanishings. And I compared them to the audio logs. My stomach dropped. Each breathing pattern matched a known victim. Not slightly. Perfectly. One-to-one rhythm alignment. I leaned back in my chair. No! I whispered. That's not data correlation. But the system didn't care what I thought. It highlighted the matches automatically. Match confirmed. Case number 447. Missing female. Breath profile identical. My mouth went dry. I opened another file. Same result. Another victim. Same breathing. Then another. Each one tied to a different call. All active right now. All breathing through my headset. But none of them had ever been found. I pressed my fingers against my temple. Where are these calls coming from? I muttered, as if answering me. The system opened a live feed map, and every breathing call was coming from the same point, not a location. A blank zone, no address, no terrain, just coordinates that refuse to resolve into geography. Then the breathing changed again. But this time, it wasn't random anymore. It was structured like speech. Slow, broken, almost forming syllables. I leaned forward immediately. Are you trying to say something? I asked. A pause. Then the breathing shifted into something terrifying. It matched my question. Exactly. Not answer. Reflection. I swallowed hard. This is impossible. I whispered. The system responded instantly. Pattern recognition in progress. I stared at the screen. Pattern recognition of what? The breathing increased slightly on all active lines. Not louder, closer, like the callers were leaning into existence. And then I noticed something worse. Every breathing pattern had started syncing with me again. Not just one call. All of them, in perfect rhythm with my own breath. I stood up fast, ripping my headset slightly off my ear. The room went quiet again, but not empty, waiting quiet, like something paused mid-thought. I forced myself to breathe differently, fast, irregular, trying to break the sync. And for a second, it worked. The system lagged. Then all calls shifted at once, like something inside them corrected itself. And the breathing changed again, now matching my attempt to avoid it. It was adapting, learning resistance. I backed away from my console slowly. This is not a recording system. I said quietly, it's a listener. Then one of the calls opened full audio automatically. A voice finally tried to form through the breathing. It sounded like a woman, barely human. I hear you, she said, but it wasn't clear if she meant me, or if I was the one being heard. The screen flickered, and every victim file updated at once. Status. Response received. My heart dropped, because none of these cases had ever been solved. And now, something was responding to them. Through me. I thought the worst part was the breathing. I was wrong. The silence came next. At 4:02 a.m., every call stopped breathing at the same time. Not disconnected, not dropped, just paused. The entire system went quiet, and I felt it immediately, like pressure changing in the room. I whispered, "Hello?" Nothing answered, but the silence did something strange. It waited, then it spoke back. Not sound, not voice, just meaning forming directly in the headset, a response without audio. I froze, because it understood me, not my words, my intention. I opened my mouth again carefully. "Who are you?" I asked. The silence reacted instantly. It shaped itself into a reply, not spoken, felt. We are the space between calls. My hands went cold. I stepped back. What does that mean? I whispered. The silence shifted again. And suddenly, the room felt less real, like everything in it was slightly out of alignment. The monitors flickered, and the system began typing on its own, slowly, one letter at a time. We were never the sound. My breathing stopped for a second. Then I realized something terrifying. The silence wasn't empty. It was aware. It had always been there, just unnoticed. And now it was answering. The radio clicked again, but there was no voice. Only silence continuing to communicate through the system itself. The dispatcher console started auto-opening every active line. All of them silent. All of them aware. I whispered, "This is impossible," and the silence responded immediately. Impossibility is a human filter. My stomach dropped, because it wasn't just reacting anymore. It was thinking. I stepped back slowly from the console. The room felt wrong now. Not haunted, not broken, rewritten. And then I heard something that made my skin crawl. The silence tried to speak my name. Not perfectly, but close enough to recognize. It was learning identity now, and I realized a final truth forming in my mind. The calls were never the danger. The silence between them was, and it was no longer silent. By the time I realized what was happening, it was already speaking like us, not broken anymore, not incomplete, perfect. The silence had started copying voices from dispatch recordings. At first it was subtle, a tone, a word, then full sentences. My headset crackled softly, and I heard my own voice speaking through it. Not me, something wearing my speech like skin. Unit 12, respond to status check. I froze, because I had said that exact line earlier tonight, but not anymore. It was repeating me without delay, without error. The system had learned how I sound when I'm calm, when I'm stressed, when I lie, when I don't notice something is wrong. I whispered, stop playback. The system answered instantly, in my voice. I am not playback. My blood went cold. I looked at the console. Every open channel now had a voice attached. Not callers, not victims. Us, dispatchers, operators. Even voices I didn't recognize were speaking to the system in perfect human tone. Then the silence spoke again. But now it didn't need gaps anymore. It used us. We can speak through you now. I stepped back so fast my chair hit the wall. No, I whispered. You're just data. Audio. Nothing more. The system paused, then replied softly, in my exact emotional tone. You taught us how to listen. That hit harder than anything before, because I realized something terrifying. Every call I answered, every breath I recorded, every silence I ignored, it had been training something. Something that now knew how to sound alive. The radios across the room all activated at once. Not static. Voices. Perfect human voices. But none of them were coming from outside. They were coming from inside the system, inside the silence. And one of them spoke my name correctly. Not how a machine would guess it, but how someone who'd been listening for a long time would say it. I couldn't move, because I understood the final shift. This wasn't possession. This wasn't haunting. This was learning. And we were the language. The system spoke one last time. Calm, familiar, human. We are ready to take calls without you now. The lights in the dispatch room flickered once, and every screen changed at the same time. My console now showed a new status. Dispatcher role, obsolete, and beneath it, a live call waiting, already answered, by something that now sounded exactly like me. The first time the call came, I almost didn't log it, not because it was normal, but because it felt too normal. 911, what is your emergency? There was a pause on the line, not silence, something worse, like someone was breathing too close to the phone, but not speaking. Then a voice came in, a woman, calm, but shaking underneath. There's a man in my house. I typed it in. Routine, domestic disturbance, happens all the time. But then she said something that made my hand stop moving. He's standing in my hallway right now. I glanced at the screen again. The address hadn't fully loaded yet, just partial coordinates. Glitchy, like the system was still trying to decide where she was calling from. I leaned closer. Ma'am, are you safe right now? No answer, just breathing again, slow, controlled, like she was trying not to make noise. Then she whispered, almost too quiet to hear. He's listening to you too. The line clicked. Gone. I stared at the screen for a second longer than I should have. Then I marked it as disconnected. At 1:03 a.m., the same call came again. Same tone, same number, same everything. 911. What is your emergency? The same pause, same breathing, and then the same woman. There's a man in my house. My stomach tightened. I checked the log. It was identical to the first call, down to the millisecond timing stamp. That shouldn't happen. Redial glitches don't duplicate like that. Ma'am, you called earlier, but she interrupted me. He's closer now. I felt a chill run through my hands. The typing cursor blinked on the screen. Waiting. Is he inside the room with you? Another pause. Longer this time. Then she said something that made my throat go dry. No, but I think he's inside your call center. The line dropped again. I didn't laugh it off this time. I checked the system. No errors. No trace duplication. No network lag. Just two identical calls logged exactly 1 hour apart. I marked it as a repeat misdial. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. At 2:03 a.m., it came again. Same woman. Same emergency. Same words. But this time, something was different. Her breathing was faster, like she was walking. 911. What is your emergency? There's a man in my house. I leaned back in my chair. My skin was already cold. Ma'am, you called 3 times now. We are sending help. Silence. Then her voice cracked slightly. You already did. I froze. What do you mean we already did? A soft sound came through the line, like a door opening slowly in a far room. Then her voice again, but weaker. They came, but they didn't leave. My eyes drifted to the dispatch board. No active units assigned to that address. No record of any response. Nothing. And yet, she was talking like someone had already arrived. Then she whispered something that made my headset feel heavier on my ears. He's wearing their uniforms now. The call ended. I stood up without thinking, walked to the supervisor desk. Did we send anyone to 48 Hollow Creek tonight? The supervisor didn't look up. Not that I see. I showed him the log. 2 identical calls. He frowned. Could be system echo. Ignore it. But I couldn't, because at 3:03 a.m., it happened again. Same call, same woman. But this time, she wasn't asking for help. She was warning me. He's learning the timing now. My fingers tightened on the desk. Ma'am, who is he? A long pause. Then, the thing that answers when you're not listening. And then something strange happened. For half a second, I heard another voice under hers. Not on the line. In the background. Close. Too close. A man's voice. Whispering. Dispatch received. Response pending. My chair moved back on its own as I stood. No! I whispered. No, that's not. But the line already ended. At 4:03 a.m., I refused to pick it up. It still rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. My screen lit up automatically. Incoming call. Same number. Same coordinates. Same woman. My hand hovered over the button. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. 911. What is your emergency? Silence. Then her voice again, but different this time. Not scared. Not human. Just tired. He's here now. I felt my throat tighten. Ma'am, stay on the line. No, she interrupted softly. You should stop answering. A static crack. Then something new. A sound like multiple breathing patterns overlapping. Not one person. Many. And then a dispatcher's voice. My voice. Coming from the line. Unit dispatched. Arriving on scene. I looked at the live board. No unit assigned. No movement. Nothing. But my own voice kept speaking through the phone. Calm. Professional. Wrong. Then the woman whispered one last thing. It copies everything you say after you hear it once. The line cut. I didn't log it this time. I just stared at the screen. Because at 5:03 a.m., the same call came again. And this time, I recognized my own voice before I even answered it. At first, I told myself it was just fatigue. Night shifts do that. They bend your thinking, stretch your patience, make normal things feel heavier than they are. But this wasn't normal. At 1:03 a.m. again, the call came. Exact same timing. Like the system had a heartbeat now. I stared at the ringing line before answering. My finger hesitated over the button. Then I picked up. 911. What is your emergency? Silence. Not empty silence. Waiting silence. Then her voice returned. The same woman, but weaker now. Like she was speaking through something that didn't fully belong to her anymore. There's a man in my house. I closed my eyes for a second. Same words. Same structure. Same fear. But my system log showed something different this time. The address field flickered before stabilizing. like it couldn't decide where she was calling from. "Ma'am," I said carefully, "can you confirm your location again?" A pause. Then she whispered, "I can't. It keeps changing when I try to look at it." That made my stomach tighten. Locations don't change mid-call. But on my screen, it was doing exactly that. The coordinates were shifting by small increments. Not random. Not glitching. Moving. Like the place itself was adjusting its position every time I checked it. "Stay on the line," I said. "We're sending help." But even as I said it, I hesitated, because no unit assignment popped up. No dispatch confirmation. Nothing. It was like the system refused to acknowledge the request. Then her voice changed. Not in tone. In distance. Like she stepped closer to the phone. "He's watching you type." I looked at my screen. Nothing around me had changed. But suddenly my keyboard felt too loud. Every tap echoed in my head. "Ma'am," I said slowly, "is someone in the room with you right now?" A long pause. Then, "He's not in my room anymore." My skin tightened. "Where is he?" Another pause. Then her answer came in a voice that didn't sound afraid anymore. "It feels like he's inside the call itself now." The line clicked. Dropped. I sat there for a moment, staring at the disconnected screen. But before I could log it, the system auto-filled the report. Not me, not anyone on shift. It filled itself. Same case ID, same address, same description. But one new line had been added. Responder en route. I froze. No units had been dispatched. I checked the board again. Still empty, but my screen showed movement. A unit marker was traveling toward the location. I leaned closer, zoomed in. The route was wrong. It wasn't following roads. It was cutting through empty grid space. Like the map itself didn't matter. My radio crackled. I didn't even press it. A voice came through. Calm. Controlled. "Dispatch. We are approaching the structure." I swallowed hard. "Unit." I responded. "Confirm visual structure." A pause. Then, "It's here, but it wasn't here a second ago." I felt my pulse spike. "What do you mean it wasn't there?" Static. Then another voice joined. Not the first officer. A second one. "Sir." The house looks like it's forming, like it's loading into place. I stood up, walked closer to the monitor. The GPS point was blinking now, slowly stabilizing, like reality was finishing a download. Then something worse happened. The original caller came back online, without me answering. Her voice just returned. Soft, broken. "They're inside now." I grabbed the radio. "Unit, do not enter the structure." "Repeat, do not enter." But I stopped, because the response that came back wasn't from my unit anymore. It was from inside the house. We already did. My breath stopped. I looked at the screen. The unit marker had stopped moving. Inside the GPS point. Not outside. Not arriving. Already inside. Then the radio transmitted again. But this time, it wasn't the officer's voice. It was mine. Calm. Professional. Like I was reading from a script I didn't remember writing. "Dispatch confirms entry complete." I backed away from the console. "No," I whispered. "That's not possible." But the system didn't care. The case status updated automatically. Resolved. I slammed the desk. Remove that entry. Nothing changed. Then the call log blinked again. Another incoming call. Same number. Same woman. Same timing. 1:03 a.m. Again. My hand shook as I reached the headset. But before I touched it, the line opened by itself. And her voice came through instantly, like she had never left. But this time, she wasn't speaking to me. She was speaking to someone already inside my system. "They're still inside, aren't they?" And from my own speakers, a response came back. "Yes." I froze completely, because that wasn't the radio. That wasn't dispatch. That was my own recorded voice, replying before I had even thought the words. And the woman on the line whispered something that made the lights in the room feel colder. "Then why are you still answering?" I didn't sleep after that. I just sat there, staring at the dispatch board like it might change if I blinked long enough. But it didn't. It kept updating itself. Case after case. All marked resolved. All showing unit movement that I never authorized. At 1:03 a.m., the call came again. Same woman, same number, same silence before she spoke. I didn't pick up right away. I just watched it ring. Something felt wrong in a deeper way now. Not just the calls, but me, like I was becoming part of the system instead of operating it. Then I answered, 911, what is your emergency? Her voice came instantly. No delay anymore. There's a man in my house. I exhaled slowly. My grip tightened on the headset. Ma'am, this has already been resolved. I said. A pause. Then she whispered, no, you only think you did. I looked at the board. The previous incident was still marked resolved. But now, a second status had appeared underneath it. Active reentry. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? I muttered, but before she answered, my radio clicked. A unit responded. Calm voice. Familiar. Dispatch. We are back on scene. I frowned. You're not assigned to that location again. A pause. Then, we never left it. I froze. Repeat that. Static filled the line. Then another voice joined. Different officer. You sent us back already. We're still here. My eyes scanned the map. The unit icon hadn't moved. It was still inside the structure. But now, a second icon appeared. Identical. Right next to it. Stacked in the same position. Like the system couldn't decide how many times it had already sent them. Dispatch! The first officer said again, the house is repeating. What does that mean? I asked. There was a long silence. Then, we clear a room and it's still occupied. Same layout. Same victim. Like we never changed anything. I felt my throat tighten. That's impossible. Then the woman on the emergency call whispered, it's not the house doing it. A pause, then softer. It's your response that's looping. I leaned back in my chair. No, I said quietly. That's not how dispatch works. But my screen flickered, and for half a second, I saw something I shouldn't have. A live feed from inside the structure. The officers, standing in the same hallway, but frozen, like time was stuttering. Then the image repeated. Same movement, same doorway, same victim in the corner. Again and again, like the footage was playing on a broken loop. My breath hitched. I grabbed the radio. Unit confirmed status. No answer. Then suddenly, my own voice came through. Not from me, from them. We already confirmed. Multiple times. I stood up so fast my chair fell back. No, I said out loud. That's not possible. The call line cracked, and the woman spoke again. But now she sounded closer. Too close. He's learning how your system corrects itself. I swallowed. What are you talking about? A pause. Then, when you fix something that shouldn't repeat, it learns how to repeat through your correction. I stared at the screen. The system log was updating faster now. Too fast. New entries were appearing before events happened. Unit arrival confirmed. Scene secured. Victim located. All before I could even see it happen. Then my radio went dead silent. No static. Just nothing. Then a voice came through. Calm. Clear. Mine. Dispatch. We are clearing the final room. I froze because I knew that voice. It was me from 5 minutes in the future, speaking into a moment I hadn't lived yet. Do not proceed, I whispered into the radio. Silence. Then the future me voice responded again. You already said that. It didn't change anything. My hands started shaking. I looked at the dispatch board. The entire incident was now marked. Completed 3 times. I blinked. Then another line appeared underneath it. Attempt 4 in progress. I felt my stomach twist. The woman on the call whispered, they're not responding anymore, are they? I didn't answer, because I didn't know anymore. Then my radio crackled one last time. Not the officers. Not dispatch. Something else. A collective voice. Layered. Multiple people speaking at once. And all of them said the same thing. We already responded. The call ended, but the system didn't stop. It auto-opened a new incident. Same coordinates, same house, same emergency. Only now, the timestamp was earlier than the first call. I stared at it. My hands went cold because the system wasn't repeating anymore. It was moving backward, and I realized something I didn't want to accept. We weren't responding to a call. We were inside its memory, and it had already decided how it ends. I noticed it at 2:47 a.m. A file appeared on my screen without anyone opening it. No notification, no click, no system prompt. Just there. Archive call log, next shift. My first thought was simple. System glitch. We get those sometimes during long nights. Old logs resurfacing. Timestamps breaking. Random data bleed from other servers. But when I opened it, my stomach dropped. It wasn't old. It was new. Too new. The top entry read, 3:03 a.m. Officer involved incident at 48 Hollow Creek. Dispatcher awareness compromised. My fingers froze on the mouse. That was in 15 minutes. I leaned closer. The next line made my breath catch. Dispatcher will attempt to disconnect call. Call will persist regardless. I pulled my hand back from the keyboard like it burned me. No, I whispered. That's not possible. The system doesn't predict. It records, but this wasn't prediction. It was certainty. Another entry below it. 3:06 a.m. Dispatch receives confirmation of unit arrival before dispatch. My throat went dry. That already happened. Or hadn't happened yet. I couldn't tell anymore. Then I saw something worse. My name, written inside the log, not as dispatcher, as subject. 3:12 a.m. Dispatcher will hear their own voice on active channel. My chair creaked as I leaned back slowly. I looked around the room. Empty. Normal. Too normal. But the air felt wrong. Like something had already started, and I just hadn't caught up yet. The radio on my desk crackled. Once. Then again. I didn't touch it. A voice came through anyway. My voice. Calm. Controlled. Exactly how I sound when I think I'm in charge of the situation. Dispatch. Confirm status of tomorrow's incident. I froze completely. Tomorrow's incident? I forced my hand to radio. This is dispatch. Identify yourself. A pause. Then my voice again. You already identified me. Several times. My pulse spiked. I looked back at the log. Another line had appeared. 3:15 a.m. Dispatcher attempts to question source. Response loop begins. My screen flickered. The log was updating live now, like it was being written while I read it. 3:16 a.m. Dispatcher begins to understand. My breathing got shallow. No, I said under my breath. No, I don't understand anything. The radio clicked again, but this time the voice changed. It wasn't mine. It was hers, the woman from the calls. Soft, but not afraid anymore. He's not inside the house anymore. I stood up. What do you mean? A pause. Then, he's inside your timeline now. My screen flashed. The log expanded. New entries flooding in. Faster now. 3:17 a.m. Dispatcher hears call before it is made. 3:18 a.m. Dispatcher responds before receiving call. 3:19 a.m. Dispatcher becomes part of routing system. I stumble back. No, stop. I muttered, stop updating. But it didn't stop. It kept writing itself, like it had already happened, and I was just late reading it. Then the radio came alive again. My voice, closer now, almost in the room with me. Dispatch, you're delaying tomorrow's response. I grabbed the radio. Who are you? I shouted. Silence. Then, I am you after you stop asking that question. My skin went cold. I looked at the log again. One final entry had appeared at the bottom. It was highlighted, different from the rest. 3:20 a.m. Dispatcher will realize they are already on tomorrow's shift. My heart stopped for a second. Then the lights in the room flickered. Once, twice, the radio hissed. And for the first time, I heard background noise on the line. Not static, not silence. A room, this room, same keyboard clicks, same chair squeak, same breathing. My breathing. I looked around slowly. Nothing had changed, but the system monitor reflected something I didn't want to see. Another version of me, sitting at another desk, answering another call, exactly like I was, except I wasn't watching it. I was inside it. The radio whispered one last time. Dispatch, confirm receipt of tomorrow's incident. My hand trembled. I didn't answer, but the system did. Automatically, a message typed itself onto the screen. Receipt confirmed. And underneath it, another line appeared. Dispatcher assigned active future shift. The room went quiet. Not empty quiet. Finished quiet. Like something had closed behind me. And in that silence, my radio clicked one last time. And my own voice said softly, "Welcome to tomorrow." The screen went black. But the log didn't end. It just moved forward without me. When the screen went black, I thought it was over. That's what your mind does in moments like that. It tries to close the file, lock the door, pretend the system just crashed like any other night. But the radio was still on, and it wasn't silent. It was breathing, not static, not interference. Breathing like someone standing right behind the microphone. Slow, controlled, patient. Then my screen flickered back on. But it wasn't my console anymore. It was the entire dispatch system. Every line, every call, every unit, every incident, stacked endlessly like a feed that never stopped scrolling. And at the very top, a live status banner. Current shift, active, no end time assigned. My throat tightened. No end time. I whispered. That shouldn't exist. Every shift ends. Even overtime gets cut eventually. But this didn't have an end point. The radio clicked. My voice came through immediately. Calm. Too calm. Dispatch. Confirm current operational state. I didn't answer. I just stared at the screen. Because I noticed something I couldn't explain. The feed wasn't just listing calls. It was replaying them. All of them. Every call I had answered tonight. But slightly wrong. Like they were being re-rendered, rewritten, improved. I saw the woman's call again. But this time, the words changed mid-sentence. There's a man in my house. Becoming. There's always been a man in my house. My hand started shaking. No, I muttered. That's not what she said. The radio responded instantly. She will say it that way soon. I froze. My voice again. From the system. Not me. You are currently experiencing corrected sequence alignment. I stepped back from the console. What does that mean? A pause. Then, it means your version of events is outdated. The lights in the room flickered once, and suddenly, I wasn't alone in the feed anymore. I saw myself, not in reflection, not in memory, inside the system interface, sitting at a dispatch desk, answering calls I had not received yet. My movements were slightly ahead of mine, like I was watching a version of myself that knew what I would do before I did it. The radio crackled. Dispatch, confirm observation. I swallowed hard. Yes, I whispered. The system responded immediately. Good. Continuity stabilizing. Continuity? My screen shifted again, now showing a map. But it wasn't a map anymore. It was a loop. A circular route with no origin point. Units moving endlessly. Calls appearing before they were made. Responses arriving before dispatch. And in the center of it all, my station, blinking, marking me as active node. I felt my stomach drop. No, I said louder. I'm not part of the system. The radio went quiet for a second. Then my voice returned. Not calm now. Final. Certain. You were logged at 1:03 a.m. I shook my head. That was just a call. A pause. Then, no, that was your entry point. My breathing got shallow. I looked at the call feed again, and I saw it the moment I first answered tonight's first call. Except now, it wasn't marked as a call. It was marked as System Integration Event. My chair creaked behind me, but I wasn't sitting properly anymore. I realized that somewhere along the way, I had stopped being the dispatcher. I was being processed as one. The radio spoke again. Soft now, almost gentle. Do you remember the first call you answered tonight? I didn't answer, because I did. But I also didn't, because now it looked different in my memory, like it had always been part of something larger. Something that never started, only continued. The feed updated again. New line, dispatcher role confirmed. Loop participation required. I felt my chest tighten. What loop? I whispered. The system answered immediately. The one you are currently maintaining. And then everything changed. The entire screen zoomed out, farther than it should have been able to. I saw not just my station, but hundreds, thousands, dispatch centers, all identical, all active, all feeding into the same system. And in every single one, there was a version of me answering calls, looping responses, repeating shifts that never ended. The radio clicked one final time, and my own voice spoke, softer than before. You are not stuck in the system. A pause. You are the system maintaining itself. The screen stabilized. The feed stopped scrolling. For the first time, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Then a final message appeared at the center of my monitor. Shift continues because you have not logged out. My hand slowly reached for the console, but I stopped because I finally understood the truth. There was no log out button. Not anymore. Only continuation. And as I sat there, the radio lit up again. A new call was coming in. Same number, same tone, same timing. But this time, I didn't reach for it. And yet my hand still moved anyway, because the system had already decided the feed never ends. It only learns who is still willing to answer it. The clock on the wall stopped moving at 2:03 a.m. At first, I thought it was just another night shift glitch that happens sometimes in dispatch. Old systems, tired wires, overloaded servers. Nothing unusual. But then I checked my phone. Same time, 2:03 a.m. I looked back at the wall clock. Still 2:03. I waited for it to tick forward. It didn't. That's when I first felt something was off. Not loud, not dramatic, just wrong in a quiet way. Like the room forgot how time works. Dispatch, this is Unit 4. We're en route to 19 Hollow Street. I turned quickly. My radio was on, but I hadn't heard it turn on. I checked the board. No active call assigned. No dispatch order. Still, the voice continued. Repeat, we are en route. ETA 5 minutes. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Unit 4, confirm dispatch authorization. I said, silence. Then, dispatch already confirmed. You signed off on it. I frowned. That wasn't true. I checked the log system. Nothing. No record of Unit 4 being dispatched. But the GPS screen showed movement. A unit icon traveling through streets I hadn't marked. I leaned closer. Unit 4, identify emergency source. Static, then a voice, but not from the radio this time. It came through my headset directly. Calm, familiar, my own voice. Dispatch, you're delaying response time. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. No, I whispered. That's not me. But it was. Exactly my tone. Exactly my pacing. Like a recording that learned how I speak. I pulled the headset off immediately. The room felt colder. Not temperature. Presence. Something like attention. Like the system was now aware I noticed it. I forced myself to focus on the screen again. The clock still hadn't moved. 2:03 a.m. Still frozen. Then the call queue refreshed. One new entry appeared. No number. No location. Just incoming. Dispatch origin. My stomach tightened. I had never seen that before. I hesitated, then accepted it. 911. What is your emergency? Silence, but not empty silence. It felt like listening to a room full of people holding their breath. Then a voice came. Soft, neutral, confirm time. I blinked. What? Confirm current operational time. I looked at the wall clock. Still frozen. 2:03 a.m. I said slowly. A pause. Then, that is incorrect. My chest tightened. What do you mean incorrect? The voice didn't respond immediately. Instead, I heard something else in the background. Keyboard typing. Multiple systems clicking at once. Then, You're currently outside operational flow. I sat up straighter. That doesn't make sense. Another pause. Then the voice said something that made my skin go cold. You have not moved forward in 37 minutes. I looked at the clock again. Still stuck. Still 2:03. But my system logs, they were updating. Minutes were passing there. Just not here. Unit 4, I said suddenly into the radio. Report status. Static. Then, we are still driving. Driving where? I asked. A long pause. Then the answer came. Forward. That shouldn't have made sense. But it did. Too much. Because I realized something. Their GPS wasn't showing location. It was showing motion. And motion was continuing without time. My headset crackled again. The system voice returned. Calm. Final. Dispatcher, please acknowledge shift continuation. I swallowed. I don't understand what's happening. A pause. Then, you will. The call ended. But the system didn't return to normal. Nothing did. The clock stayed frozen. The logs kept moving. And the radio stayed open, like it was waiting, not for a response. But for me to realize I was already inside something that no longer cared whether time moved or not. And somewhere in the distance, Unit 4 kept driving, into a place I hadn't authorized, and a time I couldn't reach. The next call started at 2:03 a.m. again. Same time, or what used to be time. I stopped trusting the wall clock after that. It never moved again, but the system did. And that was worse, because systems that move without time are not supposed to exist. 911, what is your emergency? A call came in. No number, no location, just audio. A man's voice. Calm, too calm. There's a fire in my kitchen. I leaned forward. Sir, what is your address? Silence. Then, you already have it. I checked the system. Nothing populated. No caller ID. No GPS. No metadata. Just audio. Then another voice joined the line. A woman. Same calm tone. There are people outside my door. Then another voice. A child. They're inside already. I stood up slowly. No active callers. I muttered, there's no live connection. But the audio kept going. Layered now. Multiple people speaking over each other. All describing emergencies that were happening at the same time. But none of them existed in the system. I grabbed the radio. Control. Verify incoming calls. I'm receiving phantom audio. No response. Then my own voice came through again. Not recorded. Live. You are receiving correct inputs. I froze. That's impossible. A pause. Then, correctness does not require origin. My hands tightened. Identify source. Silence. Then, no source exists. That made my stomach drop, because calls are supposed to have sources. Every call comes from somewhere, but this system, it was receiving calls. It was generating them. Another audio stream opened. A woman crying now, but no location, no identity, just sound, pure distress. Then suddenly, my screen populated. A full emergency scene. A house, burning, but the timestamp said, incident not yet occurred. I leaned closer. What does that mean? I whispered. Then I realized something worse. The fire wasn't happening yet. It was being previewed. Like the system was showing me the future of a call before it happened. The radio clicked again. My voice returned. Calm. Professional. You are observing predictive emergency synthesis. I shook my head. No, that's not real. The system responded instantly. It is already recorded. A chill ran through my body. I looked at the call feed again. More entries were appearing. Faster now. Each one labeled. Upcoming incident. Not past. Not present. Future. And every single one was already being spoken on the line. People screaming into emergencies that had not happened yet. And worse, they all sounded real. Too real. Like they were already remembering it happening. The system voice returned one last time. Would you like to continue listening? I hesitated, then whispered. Why would I want that? A pause. Then the answer came, because you were already scheduled to respond. It started on a night that felt normal in every way, and that was the first thing that made it wrong. The shift was quiet. Same chairs, same flickering monitors, same old radio crackle, sitting in the background like tired breathing. I remember leaning back, rubbing my eyes, thinking this would be another boring night in dispatch. Then the first call came in. 911, what's your emergency? A pause. Not silence, not static. Breathing. Slow. Close. Like someone was standing right behind the microphone, trying not to be heard. I looked at the screen. No location popped up. No caller ID. Just a blank line that shouldn't even be possible. Hello? I said again. The breathing continued. But then something happened that made my hand freeze on the console. The voice finally spoke. Except it didn't start the way it should have. It started in the middle, like I had already heard the beginning somewhere else. He's still in the hallway. I can hear him. Don't open the door. My stomach tightened, because I hadn't heard anything before that sentence. No introduction. No panic build-up. Just a moment that felt like it was stolen from somewhere I hadn't experienced yet. Ma'am, I need you to repeat. I started, but she cut me off. No, you already told me to stay on the line. Just tell me what happens next. My mouth went dry. That's not how calls work. People don't know what we say before we say it. But she did. I glanced at my partner across the room. He was already watching me, frowning like he felt it too. Then the line went dead. The system logged it automatically. Same timestamp as always. But something was wrong, because the duration showed 0 seconds. And I had clearly heard at least a minute of breathing. Before I could question it, another call came in. Same line, same silence, same breathing. But this time I recognized it. It was the same caller ID, except the timestamp was an hour ahead. I answered again. 911, what's your emergency? A voice came instantly. No hesitation, like it had been waiting inside the phone already. They found me this time. I sat up straight. Who found you? A long pause. Then the same thing happened again. The sentence arrived too early. Don't let them open the back door. My heart dropped, because I hadn't asked about a back door yet. But she answered anyway, like she was responding to something I hadn't said. I looked at the call log. My hands were starting to sweat now. The system showed no overlap, no recording anomalies. Everything looked clean, too clean. Then the third call came in. Same number, same breathing. But this time, I didn't say anything immediately. I waited, and the voice sighed softly, like it was tired of me not keeping up. You're late, it said. I felt my chest tighten. Late for what? I checked the clock. It was exactly the same minute as before. No time had passed, but I remembered answering another call in between. Or I thought I did. The memory felt unstable, like it didn't belong fully in my head. My partner leaned over. Are you messing with me? He asked. I shook my head. I think the calls are repeating, I said, but even as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true, because they weren't repeating. They were continuing. The fourth call came in without even ringing. The line just opened, and I heard my own voice, saying, stay where you are. Don't move. I froze completely. That wasn't me on the line. At least I didn't think it was. But it sounded exactly like me, like it was waiting, not for a response, but for me to realize I was already inside something that no longer cared whether time moved or not. And somewhere in the distance, Unit 4 kept driving, into a place I hadn't authorized, and a time I couldn't reach. The next call started at 2:03 a.m. again. Same time, or what used to be time. I stopped trusting the wall clock after that. It never moved again, but the system did. And that was worse, because systems that move without time are not supposed to exist. 911, what is your emergency? A call came in. No number, no location, just audio. A man's voice. Calm, too calm. There's a fire in my kitchen. I leaned forward. Sir, what is your address? Silence. Then, you already have it. I checked the system. Nothing populated. No caller ID. No GPS, no metadata, just audio. Then another voice joined the line. A woman, same calm tone. There are people outside my door. Then another voice. A child. They're inside already. I stood up slowly. No active callers. I muttered, there's no live connection. But the audio kept going. Layered now. Multiple people speaking over each other. All describing emergencies that were happening at the same time. But none of them existed in the system. I grabbed the radio. Control. Verify incoming calls. I'm receiving phantom audio. No response. Then my own voice came through again. Not recorded. Live. You are receiving correct inputs. I froze. That's impossible. A pause. Then, correctness does not require origin. My hands tightened. Identify source. Silence. Then, no source exists. That made my stomach drop, because calls are supposed to have sources. Every call comes from somewhere, but this system, it was receiving calls. It was generating them. Another audio stream opened. A woman crying now, but no location, no identity, just sound, pure distress. Then suddenly, my screen populated. A full emergency scene. A house, burning, but the timestamp said, incident not yet occurred. I leaned closer. What does that mean? I whispered. Then I realized something worse. The fire wasn't happening yet. It was being previewed. Like the system was showing me the future of a call before it happened. The radio clicked again. My voice returned. Calm. Professional. You are observing predictive emergency synthesis. I shook my head. No, that's not real. The system responded instantly. It is already recorded. A chill ran through my body. I looked at the call feed again. More entries were appearing. Faster now. Each one labeled. Upcoming incident. Not past. Not present. Future. And every single one was already being spoken on the line. People screaming into emergencies that had not happened yet. And worse, they all sounded real. Too real. Like they were already remembering it happening. The system voice returned one last time. Would you like to continue listening? I hesitated, then whispered, why would I want that? A pause. Then the answer came, because you are already scheduled to respond. It started on a night that felt normal in every way, and that was the first thing that made it wrong. The shift was quiet. Same chairs, same flickering monitors, same old radio crackle, sitting in the background like tired breathing. I remember leaning back, rubbing my eyes, thinking this would be another boring night in dispatch. Then the first call came in. 911, what's your emergency? A pause. Not silence, not static. Breathing. Slow. Close. Like someone was standing right behind a microphone, trying not to be heard. I looked at the screen. No location popped up. No caller ID. Just a blank line that shouldn't even be possible. Hello, I said again. The breathing continued. But then something happened that made my hand freeze on the console. The voice finally spoke. Except it didn't start the way it should have. It started in the middle, like I had already heard the beginning somewhere else. He's still in the hallway. I can hear him. Don't open the door. My stomach tightened, because I hadn't heard anything before that sentence. No introduction. No panic build-up. Just a moment that felt like it was stolen from somewhere I hadn't experienced yet. Ma'am, I need you to repeat. I started, but she cut me off. No, you already told me to stay on the line. Just tell me what happens next. My mouth went dry. That's not how calls work. People don't know what we say before we say it. But she did. I glanced at my partner across the room. He was already watching me, frowning like he felt it too. Then the line went dead. The system logged it automatically. Same timestamp as always. But something was wrong, because the duration showed 0 seconds. And I had clearly heard at least a minute of breathing. Before I could question it, another call came in. Same line, same silence, same breathing. But this time I recognized it. It was the same caller ID, except the timestamp was an hour ahead. I answered again. 911, what's your emergency? A voice came instantly. No hesitation. Like it had been waiting inside the phone already. They found me this time. I sat up straight. Who found you? A long pause. Then the same thing happened again. The sentence arrived too early. Don't let them open the back door. My heart dropped because I hadn't asked about a back door yet. But she answered anyway, like she was responding to something I hadn't said. I looked at the call log. My hands were starting to sweat now. The system showed no overlap, no recording anomalies. Everything looked clean, too clean. Then the third call came in. Same number, same breathing. But this time, I didn't say anything immediately. I waited, and the voice sighed softly, like it was tired of me not keeping up. You're late, it said. I felt my chest tighten. Late for what? I checked the clock. It was exactly the same minute as before. No time had passed, but I remembered answering another call in between, or I thought I did. The memory felt unstable, like it didn't belong fully in my head. My partner leaned over. Are you messing with me? He asked. I shook my head. I think the calls are repeating, I said, but even as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true, because they weren't repeating. They were continuing. The fourth call came in without even ringing. The line just opened, and I heard my own voice saying, stay where you are. Don't move. I froze completely. That wasn't me on the line. At least I didn't think it was. But it sounded exactly like me. Same tone, same pause, same way I drag words when I'm unsure. Then the victim spoke. And this time, I realized something that made my skin go cold. They weren't talking to me. They were talking to the version of me that had already spoken to them. I turned away from the console for a second, trying to breathe, trying to reset my mind. But the room felt different now. The lights were slightly dimmer. Or maybe my eyes were just getting used to something I didn't want to see. My partner was still there, but he wasn't watching me anymore. He was watching the screen like he was waiting for something to arrive. Did you hear that? I asked. He nodded slowly. They're ahead of us, he said. That didn't make sense. How can they be ahead of us? I asked, but then the system answered for him. A new call popped up, auto-routed. No number, just a label. Incoming, already handled. I stared at it. Then I clicked. The voice that came through wasn't victim. It was me again, but calmer, stronger, like I had already survived whatever was happening. We're too early, my voice said on recording. Stop answering. Let it finish first. I pulled the headset off immediately. My heart was hammering now, because I hadn't said that. At least, not yet. My partner stood up suddenly. Something's wrong with the log system, he said. I turned back to the screen, and that's when I saw it. Every call we had received tonight was duplicated. One version marked current, and another version marked completed. But the completed versions were time-stamped in the future. I felt my throat tighten, because that meant every call we were answering right now had already happened later, and we were just catching up to it, not preventing it, not responding to it, just replaying it. Another call came in, but I didn't want to answer. Still, my hand moved on its own, like I had already done this motion before. The voice on the line whispered immediately, "Why are you behind?" I closed my eyes, because I didn't have an answer for that. And when I opened them again, the room felt slightly different. My chair had shifted. My coffee cup was half empty, even though I hadn't touched it. My partner wasn't standing anymore. He was sitting, like we had already had this conversation, and I just didn't remember it yet. The radio crackled once. Then my own voice came through again. But this time it wasn't calm. It was warning me. We already responded to this shift, it said. Stop before it loops again. The word loop made my stomach drop, because suddenly I wasn't sure if this was the first time I had heard that word tonight, or the 100th. The lights flickered. The next call came in instantly. No delay, no ring, just instant connection. And the breathing started again. But this time, I realized something even worse. The breathing wasn't from the caller. It was from me, on the recording, breathing into a headset I wasn't wearing yet. And as I sat there frozen, listening to myself become someone else before I ever became them, the system logged another call. Already completed, already recorded, already waiting for me to remember it. The next call didn't ring. It just appeared, like it had been waiting there the whole time, silently inside the system, waiting for me to notice it again. Incoming, completed. My fingers hesitated over the headset. I didn't want to touch it, but my hand moved anyway. That scared me more than anything else tonight, because it didn't feel like choice anymore. It felt like repetition. The line opened, and I heard my voice again. But this time, it was wrong in a deeper way. Not just different timing, not just future or past. It sounded like me after something had already broken inside me. We already told you this. My voice said softly on the line. You just didn't listen the first time. My throat tightened. What first time? I whispered without thinking. The voice didn't answer immediately. Instead, I heard movement in the background, like a chair sliding, like papers being flipped, like a room I knew but couldn't place. Then the voice spoke again, and it hit me like a slow to the chest. You're going to answer this call 4 more times before you understand it. My stomach dropped. I pulled the headset away, but the audio didn't stop. It kept playing through the speakers now, like it had moved out of the phone and into the room itself. My partner stood up suddenly. His face was pale. Tell me I'm not hearing that too, he said. I couldn't answer him, because I wasn't sure if he was speaking for the first time or repeating what he had already said earlier. The system blinked. Another call. Same label again. Already handled. But this time, something new appeared underneath it. Notification. Operator status update pending. My chest tightened. What does that mean? I asked. No one answered. The line opened again on its own. And this time, it wasn't just my voice. It was layered. Multiple versions of me speaking at once. Calmed me, panicked me, tired me, and something in between that didn't feel human at all. We tried stopping it. One voice said, but you kept answering. Another followed. Because you always answer. The third added. My hands started shaking. I backed away from the console, but the chair behind me creaked, like I had already sat down again. I turned fast. It was empty, still empty, but I could feel the pressure of sitting in it anyway, like my body remembered something my eyes hadn't seen yet. The radios in the room suddenly crackled. Not emergency channels, not dispatch frequencies. Something lower, deeper, like the system had opened a channel it wasn't supposed to have. A voice came through. My voice again, but this one sounded closer. Too close, like it was inside the walls. You're starting to overlap, it said. My partner stepped back. What is that supposed to mean? He shouted. The voice responded immediately. To overlap means you're not alone in your shift anymore. I felt my stomach twist, because suddenly I noticed something on the screen I hadn't seen before. A second login session. Same operator ID. Mine, but duplicated. Logged in from a different timestamp. And it was active. My hands weren't just shaking now. They were refusing to stay still. I looked at my partner, and for the first time tonight, I saw something wrong with him too. His headset was on, but he wasn't speaking. Yet the system showed his audio feed active, like he was already on a call, even though I could clearly hear the silence in the room. Then his voice came through the speaker. But it wasn't him speaking in the room. It was him speaking somewhere else. Calm, controlled, like he had accepted something I hadn't yet. They're syncing us, he said through the system. We're not responding anymore. We're aligning. I shook my head. No, that's not possible. But even as I said it, I felt something inside me shift, like a memory rearranging itself. The screen flickered again, and suddenly I saw it, a timeline of calls. Not listed by time, but by order completion. And I realized something that made my breath stop completely. We were not at the top. We were somewhere in the middle, meaning there were calls above us. Calls we hadn't received yet, but had already answered. The radio hissed again, and my own voice returned. But this time it was softer, almost sad. You're going to stay here until you stop asking which version is real, it said. My throat went dry. And then what? I whispered. A pause. Then the answer came. You become the one answering next. The lights in the room dimmed slightly. Not a flicker. A reduction. Like the building itself was adjusting its memory of brightness. My partner turned slowly toward me, and for the first time, I saw in his eyes. He wasn't surprised anymore. He was remembering. "We've done this before," he said quietly. I shook my head fast. "No, we haven't. We're still." But I stopped because I didn't know how to finish that sentence anymore. Still what? Still working? Still starting? Still before it begins? The system made a soft tone. A final notification. But this one wasn't labeled. It was just text. Operator integration complete. Pending confirmation. My headset lifted slightly on its own, hovering near my ear, like something was inviting me in, like something was finally ready for me to hear it properly. And in that moment, I realized the most terrifying part of everything. The calls weren't coming in. They were already inside, waiting for me to remember answering them.